So I wanted to go live with you guys today to talk about goal setting. So I am a huge goal setting nerd. I come from a really goal-oriented family, so this is one of my favorite times of the year. I love looking back on last year's goals and setting new goals for the new year. So I created this little workbook. If you're on my email list, it should already be in your inbox. But if not, if you go to the description for this video, you can click the link and download a PDF. So if you want to print it out, you can fill out your own, or you can just follow along as I'm going through it. So the first page is 2017 wins. So I think it's really important to always start with the positives and celebrate your success. So if you wrote out goals last year, you can take those out now and just look through them and think about which goals you accomplished. And then you can fill it in this section right here. And also think about if there were any goals or if there were any achievements that weren't on your goals list that you achieved this year anyways, go ahead and write those down as well. So any achieved goals or unexpected wins. And so this can be anything positive. It doesn't have to be a goal. It can just be something positive that happened in your life, maybe something you crossed off your bucket list, a cool trip you went on. For instance, I renovated my closet this year, so I consider that a win. So just go ahead and fill out that section at the bottom. Now, if you're like me and you can't really remember what happened in the last year, I find it really helpful to go through my old planner or calendar. I use Google Calendar, so just flipping through all of the past months. And you can also just scroll through your old Facebook posts from that year or old Instagram posts and kind of refresh your mind on what highlights happened throughout the year. So once you have all of those written down, think about what behaviors, attitudes, and habits towards those tasks that you had so that you can replicate those good behaviors next year for next year's goals. And then also think about any resources or people who helped you achieve them. That way, when you're putting together your 2018 goals, maybe you can ask those same people for help. So if you have any 2017 wins that you want to share, go ahead and put them in the comments so we can all celebrate with you. All right, cool. So the next page is the shortfalls, so the negatives. So anything on your list that you didn't quite reach or didn't even get started on, or any goals that you didn't accomplish this year. So go ahead and write those at the bottom. And then ask yourself why you think that is. So was it caused by fears, doubts, worries, limitations? Was it maybe your behaviors or your mindsets, maybe your habits, or was it caused by external forces? So a lot of people make the mistake of setting goals that they can't really help. So maybe it involves a spouse or a friend or someone who you can't really control. So that would be something that's limited by external forces. So after you write those down, ask yourself if you want to try this goal again next year, or maybe if you want to amend the goal, maybe you realized it was a little unrealistic, or maybe you no longer want to achieve it. Maybe your path has shifted since then. So for instance, I'll give some examples of goals I didn't achieve. So I had some workout goals, some weightlifting related goals that I didn't quite hit the numbers I wanted to. And the reason for that was because I actually started running. So I did a sprinting program again. So my focus was kind of shifted towards that, which I'm actually okay with. So I'm just going to try hitting those number goals again this year. And then, so as you can see, my list from last year was pretty long. So there was a bunch of them that I didn't even get to at all. And I'm actually okay with that. So my reason for not hitting them was I just didn't have enough time and I didn't make them a priority. So we're going to talk about that later. But when you have a really long goals list, it's really hard to hit them all. So the ones that you make a priority are most likely the ones that you're going to accomplish. So make sure that your most important goals are your priorities. So then on a broader level, ask yourself what frustrated you the most this year? And then how did you use the majority of your time? And what did you do a lot of? And ask yourself, are you happy about that? Or is that something you want to change? So take these into consideration when you're setting next year's goals. All right, so now comes the 2018 portion, so the 2018 vision. So these are just a couple little prompts to get you thinking about your vision for next year, or this year. So how do you want to feel during the year? What do you want to be doing in your business or career? How do you want to be spending your time? What do you want your relationships to be like? Who and what do you want to be surrounded by? And what does your environment look like? So if you want to share your vision, go ahead and write that in the comments. I'm going to take a sip of water. So I'll just share some of mine. So in 2018, I want to feel accomplished, recognized for my talents, efforts, and actions. I want my life to be fulfilled. I want to be teaching, educating, empowering, and inspiring other photographers, working with my ideal clients, shooting unique and stimulating weddings and shoots. I want to automate and streamline tasks, be on top of deadlines, keep as much weight lifted off my shoulders to keep my life as low stress as possible, and to free up more time for family, friends, me time, self-care, gym time, etc. And I want to be surrounded by like-minded go-getters, and I want my environment to be clean, decluttered, organized, and functional. So, with that in mind, summarize these thoughts into an overarching theme or vision for the year. Choose a word or phrase to represent this. So a lot of people call this their word of the year or their theme. All actions you take throughout the year should be with this word in mind. It should guide your actions and decisions and give you your direction and remind you of your end goals. So as an example, last year my word of the year was growth or grow or something along those lines. So last year it was all about building my business, growing, expanding, and it really paid off. So I hit a lot of my goals. I increased my profits 35% actually. My goal was only to increase it 30%, so I'm super proud of that. I shot 34 weddings, so everything went really, really well. I love where my business is right now. I'm really, really happy about the level everything is at. But now this year, I want to get more specific with it. So be really mindful about what jobs I'm taking on, mindful about how many hours I'm working throughout the week. So I have a tendency to be a little bit of a workaholic, so that's something I really want to work on this year. So I came up with a bunch of words just to kind of brainstorm, and then I decided on one of the words from that list. So refine, hone in, mindful, intentional, sculpt, focus, and dial in. So I ended up going with mindful. So I also find it really helpful if you can't find the right word to plug it into thesaurus and see what comes up. So anytime you set goals, you want them to be SMART. So that's an acronym, S-M-A-R-T. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So for instance, specific. Let's say one of your goals is to lose weight. That's not very specific. It's pretty general. So it would be a much better goal if you said, I want to lose 5 pounds by May 1st or something like that. And measurable. So for instance, a goal like, I want to be happier this year. While that's a good goal, there's really no way to measure that. Like, how do you measure happiness? So when you're putting together your goals, make sure there's a way, some parameter that you can measure the success by. And then attainable and realistic, so you want to actually be able to achieve those goals. If you set goals that are way unattainable, it's just gonna feel bad when you don't reach them. And you want them to be time-based. So there should be some sort of deadline attached, some sort of goal date, or it should be a yearly goal or 5-year goal or something like that. All right, so the last step before actually writing down your goals is to envision 2018 at the very end. So pretend it's December 31st, 2018, so the very end of the year. Ask yourself, what do you want to have accomplished, created, launched, or achieved? Where do you want to have gone or become, or how much money do you want to have earned? How will this make you feel? Picture it, feel it, smell it, really put yourself in future you's shoes. So it really helps to actually envision the goals being accomplished because it makes them feel more concrete. So if it's always like, oh, maybe one day, maybe it could happen, it's kind of not concrete yet. So if you envision the goal, it makes it more concrete. So manifestation, this is what manifestation is all about. So the more you speak your ideas into reality, the more they're at the forefront of your mind, the more likely they are to happen. All right, so that's it. So go ahead and write your goals down on this page. There's a bunch of empty space, so you can make your list as long as you want. Mine is super long again this year. And then as I'm coming up with my goals for the year, I always tend to think about all of these shorter term goals, maybe like things I have to do that week or just like quick reminders. So that space is for writing down things like that if they come to mind. And then this future goals section, maybe when you're coming up with your goals for 2018, you think of something that you might not be able to get done this year, but maybe next year or 2 years or 5 years. So write down those goals here so you don't forget about them. And maybe you can start working towards those goals. But when you go to write down your goals next year, you won't forget them. Okay, so the last part is converting your plans into action. So the best way I find to do this is to break them down. So like I said before with prioritizing, if you have a lot of goals on your list and you try to hit them all, you're probably going to spread yourself too thin. So I find that it's best to pick your top 3 or 5 major goals. So these are the goals that you prioritize over everything. They have to happen in 2018. They're at the top of your list. So if you're having trouble picking which ones to prioritize, think about what goals might hinder the following year's goals. So for example, let's say you want to become a massage therapist, maybe in 2019. So then your 2018 goals should be maybe getting your certification or something like that. All right, cool. So then write down those major goals here, and then you can convert them into plans. So now is when you would get out your planner or your calendar or however you make plans, and then ask yourself, what milestones should you be hitting quarterly? So what milestones should you be hitting those 4 times throughout the year? Then break this into monthly checkpoints. And now break this into weekly tasks. So this way you take this big overwhelming goal and you make it more manageable, less overwhelming, and you know what tasks you need to be taking by what times of the year in order to reach that end goal by that time. So then the final questions are, who will keep you accountable? How will you track and check your progress? So choose someone to be your accountability buddy. Maybe you can be them for each other. So every time you see each other, or you can even put on your calendar when you want to check in with each other, you can ask each other, how's it going with this goal? Is there anything I can help you with? Why didn't you reach those milestones? Or why didn't you hit those weekly tasks? Or why didn't you hit this checkpoint? And then finally, what or who can help you get there? And are there any tools or resources you can use? So think about all the goals you accomplished in 2017 and who helped you reach those goals, or were there any resources you used? Maybe you can use those again for your 2018 goals. So that's pretty much it. That's it. If you guys want to print and download your own workbook, feel free. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your night.